fourth session of Basic English Grammar. Today we are going to cover verbs. This course is being presented to you by me, Shilpa Jha. Please rate, review, subscribe, and recommend the course. Also, please leave your valuable suggestions and comments below. So, what is a verb? Verb is described as action words. Now, why is it described as action verb? Because it gives you the idea of what is happening. It gives you the idea of doing something. For example, run, fight, do, work. They basically describe action, that what is going to happen. So these are verbs. Verbs are basically what? Your action words. Okay. But some verbs do not give the idea of action. It's just not. That is one part of it. There are some verbs that do not give the idea of action, they give the idea of existence, of state, of being. For example, verbs like be, exist, seem, belong. They all seem to convey some state. Alright. So, thus, in simple terms, we can say that verbs are words that tell us what a subject does or is. For example, an action or a state. Action is Jack plays football, or state is Jack seems angry. Right. Now, talking about the helping verb, right? In helping verb, okay, now we know that it can be described, verbs can be described by action, like how you Jack plays football or whatever, and in a state, like Jack seems angry. So, what is the current state of it? Okay, now we have a helping verb. Helping verbs are those verbs which actually help the main verb. Obviously, it's helping verb to main to nahi hoga, so it'll help the main verb, right? Helping verbs have no meaning of their own. As such, they don't have any meaning, but they help you describe. For example, I can't reach the top shelf. That means reach is your verb, but you can, by can't reach, you tell that you will not be able to reach the top floor or the top shelf, sorry. Next is the bus may arrive on time this morning. So that means by may you're telling the probability that it may or may not arrive. So that is the bus may arrive on morning is a verb. Alright. So now in the following cases, the verb or the compound verb, whatever, compound verb as in helping verb and main verb is described, so we can understand what a verb is with more clarity. Like Dracula bites his victim on the neck. So when you say bites his victim, you're telling the action, that what he does. So basically this is a verb which is supposed to be known as action verb. So you know that Dracula is biting his victim. The second point is in early October, Gizzard will plant 20 tulip bulbs. So that tells you, this compound verb will plant tells you the action that is going to take place in future. That in future, in October, she's going to plant the tulip bulbs. So will plant becomes your verb. The next sentence is, my first teacher was Miss Crawford, but I remember the janitor, Mr. Weatherby, more vividly. So now in this sentence, was describes a particular person, and the verb remember will describe a mental action, a state that we were talking about. That verb can be an action or verb can be a state. Alright, so the first teacher was Miss Crawford, but I remember the janitor, Mr. Weatherby, more vividly. Alright. Next we have transitive and intransitive verbs. So a transitive verb is one in which must have an object to complete its meaning and receive the action expressed. So we're going to talk about object subject definitely in the subsequent lessons. But as of now, like you know that whatever is being, like when you have a verb, your transitive verb will be something that is not going to be complete unless you don't have an object. For example, John kicked the ball. So when I say, if I just write John kicked, you will not be able to understand. It's not a complete sentence, right? You'll be like, what is it? I don't know. But when I say John kicked the ball, you know what the action is. You know that the ball is being hit. So that is why the object ball is needed for it to have complete meaning. Now, whereas when we talk about intransitive verbs are the ones that are complete in themselves, right? And they don't require an object. For example, John talked. Now, when I say John talked, you understand. First of all, it's a complete sentence. Second, you understand that okay, he must have had a word, he must have talked. So that is John talked, right? So Next, we move on to active and passive verbs. We know there is active voice and passive voice. When you directly say something, it is active voice. When you write something in a passive, then it becomes passive voice. Of course, we'll discuss all this. So, active voice is your normal voice in which you speak most of the time, right? In this voice, the object receives the action of the verb performing. For example, dog eats bones. So here you know that dog is going to perform that action, right? So this becomes your active voice. Passive voice is definitely less usual, right? In this voice, the subject receives the action of the verb being performed by the object, right? Here the object receives, here the subject receives. Like, bones are being eaten by dogs. That means dogs will eat these bones, right? So here, eaten is being performed by the object dogs, right? So this sentence is in passive voice. You know how to convert a sentence into active and passive voice. So basically, that differentiates your active verbs and passive verbs.